The desert was quiet. Too quiet. Red sand stretched far into the horizon like a burning ocean. The sun above was brutal, showing no mercy. Every grain of sand seemed to whisper one word: end. She lay there, half buried in the sand, her body weak. Her lips cracked. Her name no longer mattered. Her people had left her behind. Her skin, once glowing with the soft light of her alien race, was now dull and bruised. Her long hair, blue like the deep sky, was tangled and covered in dust. The straps of her suit were broken. One of her legs was injured, maybe even broken, but she didn't know anymore. The pain had faded. She had been strong once, a soldier, a scout. But during the last mission, she was betrayed. Left behind, forgotten, thrown into the sand like trash. Now, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just closed her eyes. Maybe this was how it ended. Maybe death was better than crawling through another mile of this cruel world. Her fingers twitched once, weakly grabbing the air. Chest rose slowly, then stopped, and then a shadow. She didn't see it, but she felt it. Footsteps, heavy, crunching the sand. A voice, distant but real, spoke. "Hey, ... are you alive?" She didn't answer. Couldn't. A moment later, a strong hand touched her arm. Not rough, not cruel, careful, gentle. "Don't die," the voice said. "Please don't." Carter didn't know why he stopped. He was a scavenger. Just a man looking for old tech, parts, and maybe food if he was lucky. This planet was dangerous, but full of scraps from long-forgotten wars. But when his tracker blinked red signs of life he didn't expect to find. Her, she looked like a fallen statue in the sand. Her body was motionless. Oh, she was beautiful. Yes, but more than that, she looked helpless. And that was something Carter could never ignore. He dropped to his knees beside her, opened his emergency kit. "Come on," he muttered. "Breathe." Her pulse was weak. Her face was dry and burning from the sun. He gently lifted her upper body, letting her head rest against his chest. He pulled out a hydration patch and pressed it to her neck. Slowly, her skin responded. Her body twitched. "That's it," he said. "You're not dying today?" Carter looked around. No ships in the sky. No one in sight. She was alone. Someone had left her here. He felt anger rise inside him. What kind of people do this? He whispered. But he had no time for questions. He picked her up carefully. She was light, her body too thin from hunger and thirst. With one hand holding her close and the other checking his scanner, he started walking. There was an old outpost, not far from here, half buried, abandoned. But it had shelter. And right now, she needed that more than anything. Inside the outpost, Carter kicked open the old metal door and rushed in. It was dusty, broken lights, sand everywhere. But it was cooler than outside. Safer, he placed her on a sleeping mat, rolled. From his pack, he removed the sand from her face with a wet cloth and set up a small lamp. She looked fragile under the light. Her breathing was slow, but steady. Carter sat down beside her and took a deep breath. He stared at her, confused, angry, and sad all at once. "Who are you?" he asked softly, but she didn't answer. She lay still, her eyes closed. To Carter, it looked like she had already given up, as if she had waited to die, and almost did. But not now, not on his watch. Hours passed. Night came. Stars above the desert shone like tiny fires. Cold winds blew through the broken windows. Inside the outpost, Carter stayed beside her, giving her drops of water, adjusting her blanket, and making sure her wounds were clean. He didn't sleep then. Just before dawn, she moved. Her fingers twitched. Her chest rose with a deeper breath. Carter leaned forward quickly. "Hey, you awake?" She opened her eyes. Just a little. Her vision was blurry. Her body ached. But what she saw wasn't death. It was a human. His face rough, covered in dust, eyes tired but warm. He was holding her hand. "You're safe now," he whispered. Tears welled in her alien eyes. For the first time in her life, someone stayed. She closed her eyes again, not to die, but to rest. And this time, she felt hope. Carter had no reason to be in that part of the desert. His map showed nothing useful. There, no scrap, no signal, no trade routes. Just dead sand. But something had pulled him, a strange feeling in his chest, like a whisper or a push. He didn't believe in fate. He believed in logic, gears, and fuel cells. And yet, here he was watching an alien girl breathe because he had gone the wrong way. She was still unconscious, resting on the soft pad of his backpack. Her hair looked cleaner now after Carter gently wiped away the sand. Her wounds had been treated with all he had. She hadn't spoken a word, but her color was slowly returning. Carter sat against the wall of the ruined outpost, staring at her. He'd seen aliens before. He'd even fought some during old conflicts. But he had never seen one like her. Her body was built like theirs, yet something was softer, calmer in her form. Not weak, just different. Maybe she wasn't a warrior. Maybe she was something else. A scientist, a refugee. He didn't know, but one thing was clear. Someone had left her to die. Someone who didn't care if she ever woke up again. Outside, the desert wind howled louder now. Morning light broke through cracks in the ceiling. The sun was climbing again, and the heat would return soon. Carter stood up and checked the perimeter. With a small drone, all clear. But he didn't like staying in one place too long. He walked back in and stared at her again. Then she stirred. She blinked slowly, trying to sit up, but winced in pain. Her shoulder was still healing. Carter rushed. "Over, hey, easy. You're safe here," he said in a calm voice. She looked at him with confusion and fear. He held up his hands. "No harm, I helped you. Do you remember anything?" She didn't speak. Her mouth opened, but only a breath came out. "That's okay," Carter said. "I'm Carter, human, scavenger, you." She tried again, her voice hoarse and dry. "Vera," she whispered. "My name is Vera." Carter smiled slightly. "Good. That means you're still fighting." Vera stared at him like he was a strange creature. Not because he was human, but because of what he was doing. She had been abandoned. Her own squad left her when the ship crashed. They said she was slowing them down. She remembered crawling across the desert, screaming, begging them not to leave. But they did, and now this. This humana species her people often mocked was cleaning her wounds. Giving her water, keeping her warm. "Why?" she asked. Carter tilted his head. "Why? Why? Why help me?" Her voice was full of disbelief. Carter scratched his neck awkwardly. "Because you needed help. No one helps the abandoned," she said. "Not even their own kind." Carter frowned. "Then your kind is broken." Vera stared, unsure whether to laugh or cry. Her face softened. He helped her sit up and leaned her against a wall. He handed her a small cup of warm nutrient, liquid from his supply. She drank slowly. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Carter looked up. "What do you mean? This place? This zone? ... It's watched. My people may return. They kill anything human. If they find you with me," he nodded, "then I'll have to be gone before they do." "You still helped me," she said. Her voice almost a whisper, even knowing the risk. Carter didn't answer at first. Then he sighed. "I've lost people before. People I cared about. I couldn't save them. So when I saw you lying there, I thought, maybe this time I don't lose someone. Vera lowered her eyes. That kind of loss, that kind of guilt. It lived in her, too. Suddenly, the drone Carter had deployed buzzed. A flashing red warning blinked on his wrist device. Carter looked down sharply. Something's out there, he said. Vera stiffened. If it's them, they'll kill you. Then we move now. He grabbed his pack and helped her stand. She leaned on him, still weak, but trying. Together, they moved out of the outpost and toward the shadowed cliffs nearby. It wasn't much of a plan, but they couldn't stay there as they walked. Vera looked at him again. You could have left me, she said. I know. Why didn't you? He glanced at her, a tired smile on his lips. Because, he said, someone had to be the better species. And with those words, the two disappeared into the shadows of the rocks, just as a dark alien ship landed in the distance, searching the sands. But it was too late. The woman they left to die was now walking beside a human, and she wasn't ready to give up anymore. The cliffs looked ancient, cracked, and broken by years of storms and wind. At the base of one rocky wall, half covered by sand, was a ruined structure. It had once been a supply station during the early colonization era. Now, it was forgotten. Swallowed by the desert, Carter helped Vera through a narrow opening between two crumbling walls. Inside, it was dark but cooler. Broken crates, old wires, shattered screens. Really lips, screens, everything looked untouched for years. This will do, Carter said softly. He carefully lowered Vera onto a piece of flat metal, then propped up his pack as a pillow. Behind her, she was breathing heavily, but she managed a weak nod. It's quiet, she whispered, looking around with tired eyes. Yeah, no signals, no heat traces. They won't find us here, easily. Carter lit a small lantern and checked her wounds again. The bruises on her shoulder were still dark, but the bleeding had stopped. He applied another layer of metshell to her leg. Vera flinched. Your hands are too gentle, she said. Carter looked at her, confused. Too gentle. She gave a weak smile. I'm just not used to it. They shared silence after that. That kind of silence that didn't feel empty, but full of thoughts. Outside, the wind continued to howl. But inside those broken walls, something strange was happening. Safety, calm. Vera watched Carter as he moved around. He wasn't fast or flashy. He didn't have fancy gear, but there was care in every motion. He checked supplies, placed a sensor near the entrance, and even cleaned an old bench for her to sit if she ever gained strength. She blinked slowly. He wasn't her kind. He was supposed to be cold, violent, selfish, but he had risked his life to carry her. And now he was making this ruin feel like shelter. Carter, she said, her voice soft. He turned to her. Yeah, why were you really out there? No one scavenges that deep. He paused, then sat down across from her, leaning against a rusted wall. I didn't plan to go there, he said. Something felt off. My path kept shifting. Time I thought of turning back. I didn't. Maybe I was just running. From what? Carter gave a dry smile. Everything. Vera tilted her head. You lost someone. He looked down. Few people. A team. A brother. She didn't ask more. She knew that kind of pain. It had a shape, a silence. She had lived with it till time passed. Slowly Carter made a warm liquid meal using dried rations. The smell filled the room, a mix of spice and old protein packs. He handed a cup to Vera. She sipped it carefully. It wasn't delicious, but it felt like life. Your food tastes like burnt sand, she said with a small grin. He laughed for the first time. Better than dying in real sand. They both smiled. It was small, but it was real. Later, when Carter thought she was asleep, Vera spoke again. "My people don't believe in second chances," she said. "If someone is weak, they are left behind." Carter looked at her. "Then they're not your people anymore." She slowly turned her head. Her eyes glowed faintly under the lantern light. "I don't know what I am now," she said. "Half alive, broken, forgotten." "You're still breathing," Carter said firmly. "That means you matter." She blinked. "No one's ever said that to me," she whispered. "Well," Carter replied, "they should have." As night fell fully, the ruins became silent again. Carter stood guard, watching the entrance, listening for sounds beyond the wind. Vera, lying under a thermal blanket, stared up at the cracked ceiling above. She thought of the moment she closed her eyes in the sand, the moment she gave up, and now she was warm. She was fed. And someone, a stranger from another species, had given her something she thought she'd never feel again. Hope. The next morning, Vera woke before him. She sat up slowly, her body still weak but stronger than before. She saw Carter sleeping near the door, his head resting on his pack, weapon by his side. She didn't wake him. Instead, she looked at the light shining through the crack in the wall, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. Morning light painted the inside of the ruined shelter in gold and gray. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. The world outside was still harsh, but inside, something gentle was growing quietly, like a flower between stones. Vera sat with her back against the cool wall. Her body still ached, but her mind felt clearer than it had in days. She looked down at her hands, scraped, thin, but alive. The human had saved her. She didn't understand why. Not completely, but she could feel something different inside her now, something she hadn't felt since childhood. A reason to speak. Carter was still asleep near the entrance, gun resting on his chest. His breathing was steady, calm. Vera studied his face. He looked so human. Rough beard, tired eyes, but strong and kind. She had never seen kindness like this before. On her homeworld, kindness was currency. Traded, faked, used for power. But Carter expected nothing from her. He didn't even ask for thanks, just stayed, watched, protected. She didn't even know how to begin speaking to someone like that. Carter stirred, blinking as the light reached his eyes. "You're awake," he said with a soft smile. "So are you," Vera replied. Her voice was stronger, now still, soft, but steady. He sat up, rubbing his face. "You sound better." She nodded. "I feel different." Good different, or bad different? She looked at him for a long moment. "Strange, different." He chuckled. "Strange is normal out here." Carter brought over a drink and handed it to her. She took it, her fingers brushing his. It was a small touch, but it made her chest tighten. "I never thought I'd speak again," she admitted quietly. Carter raised an eyebrow. "Why? Because when they left me, I stopped being someone worth speaking for." He didn't interrupt. "My squad was loyal once," she continued. "We trained together, laughed, survived war zones. But when our ship crashed, they chose survival over loyalty. I was injured, slower, so they left me in the sand." Carter's jaw tightened, but he let her speak. "I waited for hours, calling on the coms. Nothing. I tried to walk, but my leg." She looked down at it, bandaged neatly by Carter. "Wouldn't move. I crawled until I couldn't anymore. Then I just waited to stop breathing." Carter stayed quiet. Sometimes silence said more than words. Vera looked up, her voice breaking. "A little. And then you showed up." "Wrong place, right time," he said, giving a small shrug. "No," she said firmly. "Right person." He blinked. He hadn't expected that. I thought humans were cruel, she went on. I was told your kind only saved yourselves. That? You only gave when something was in it for you. Carter sighed. A lot of people think that. But you didn't want anything, she said. You just helped. He looked at her, his expression serious now. I've lost people too, Vera. Not because I left them, but because I was too late. When I saw you lying there, I thought I have a chance to not fail this time, to be the one who stays. She swallowed hard. Then maybe we're both running. From ghosts. A long silence followed, but this time it wasn't heavy. It felt peaceful. Vera reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small, cracked pendant. Inside was a holographic photo to young alien girls smiling. My sisters, she said softly. They think I'm dead by now. Do you want to go back to them? I don't know if they'd believe me or accept me. In my world, being left behind is shameful. Carter leaned forward. That's a cruel world. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yes, but I survived it. With help, Carter added. This time, her smile was real. Yes, with help. At night. As the wind howled once again outside, Vera found herself sitting closer to the fire Carter had made. Her leg was healing. She could walk a few steps now. Her voice no longer cracked when she spoke, and for the first time in her life, she felt seen. She felt human, not by blood, but by heart. Later, as she drifted off to sleep, she whispered something barely, loud enough to hear. Thank you, Carter. He didn't reply out loud, but he smiled, because that was the first time she had truly spoken with her heart. The silence was broken. It started as a low humming sound, just a whisper in the wind. Then came the flickering pulse of lights in the sky. Vera was the first to notice. Her body froze as she stood near the ruined wall, one hand holding onto the edge to balance her still healing leg. They're here, she said, voice sharp and cold. Carter looked up from where he was sorting supplies. Who? My people. My former squad. They came back. Carter walked to her side. Out in the distance, a sleek dark ship hovered low above the sands, scanning the terrain with pale yellow lights. The ship looked like a silver dagger gliding through smoke. That doesn't look friendly, Carter muttered. It's not. Vera replied. They're not here to rescue me. Then why are they here now? Days later, she turned her head toward him. Because I'm not just a soldier they left behind. Carter's brow furrowed. What are you then? She hesitated. I carried encrypted military data before the crash. They think I'm dead. But if I'm alive and, if I talk, everything changes. You mean they didn't just abandon you? Carter said. They wanted you to die. Vera nodded slowly. And now, if they find me with a human, they'll kill both of us. No questions asked. Carter checked his scanner. The ship was sweeping wide circles. Slow searching. We don't have long, he said. How far can you walk? Far enough, Vera said. Her legs still ached with every step, but she stood tall. Her eyes no longer looked weak. They burned, with something new determination. I'm not running anymore, she said. Not from them. Not from what they did to me. Carter nodded. Then let's disappear before they know we were ever here. They quickly packed up what little they had, ration packs, medical supplies, and Carter's tools. No time for rest now. The ruined shelter had served its purpose. It had given them peace, healing, and truth. Now it was time to vanish, as they moved deeper into the cliffs. Vera's mind raced to her squad's betrayal. The silence on the coms. The leader's last words. You understand, right? This is bigger than you. She had been loyal. She had trusted them. And they had thrown her to die in the dust. Her heart tightened. But now she wasn't alone. She glanced at Carter, walking ahead with quiet focus, checking the path and watching the scanner. He didn't speak much, but his actions were loud, protective, careful, solid. He had no reason to risk himself for her. Yet he did, and she had to protect him now. Suddenly, the sky above them rumbled to spotlight from the ship sliced through the air, landing just meters behind them. Carter cursed under his breath. They're narrowing in. "We need cover," Vera said, her voice steady. He pointed ahead. "There's a canyon up ahead, narrow. They can't fly in close." They pushed forward, Vera's steps faster now, despite the pain. The sound of the ship grew louder. A distant mechanical screech echoed behind them, drones being deployed. "Carter," she said, breathing hard. "If they catch us, they won't," he said sharply. "I'm serious. If they do, don't fight for me. Just run." Carter stopped and looked at her dead in the eyes. "Vera, I didn't drag you out of the sand just to lose you now." She looked back at him. Her throat tightened. She had no answer. They kept running. The canyon was dark and narrow, walls rising high like ancient guardians. Carter helped Vera slide into a crevice carved by time and wind. They crouched together, breathing quietly, hidden in shadows. Above them, the ship passed slowly. The drones zipped by, buzzing, scanning, searching. But the stone walls confused their signals. Minutes passed, then an hour. The sound faded. They had escaped. For now. Later, as they rested inside the canyon, Vera leaned back against the cool stone. "You should have left me when you had the chance," she said softly. Carter shook his head. "I don't leave people behind. Not again." Vera closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them and turned to him. "If I told you I had something dangerous in my memory core, would you still stay?" Carter shrugged. "You've already got crazy people trying to kill us. What's a little more danger?" She smiled. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "Maybe both," he replied. They both laughed quietly, but inside, Vera knew. This wasn't over. Her people wouldn't stop. They wanted her gone, not just for survival, but to erase a truth that only she carried now. And beside her was the only person willing to stand against them. Not because he was ordered to, not because he wanted power, but because he chose her, and now, for the first time in her life, she would choose him back. Wind started to scream again, but this time, it wasn't just a desert wind. It carried tension. It carried war. Carter and Vera sat huddled inside a narrow cave at the edge of the canyon. Outside, sand blew like a living wall, spinning violently, making the air thick and sharp. The storm had come fast, too fast. It was unnatural. Vera narrowed her eyes. "This isn't just weather," she said. "They're forcing a tactical storm." Carter looked at her. "A what? A weather drone?" she explained. "It stirs the storm to drive targets out of hiding, like flushing animals from a bush." Carter looked toward the storm outside, the sand slamming against the rock with force. "Smart and nasty. They want to separate us," Vera added. "Blind us, cut off sensors, then strike. Then let's not be separated," Carter said firmly, tightening the strap of his gear. "Let them come." Minutes later, shapes appeared in the dust. Fast, silent. 6 enemy soldiers in reflective armor, her people. But they weren't here to talk. Carter stood up and raised his weapon. Vera grabbed his arm. "They know me. Let me try first." Limped out into the storm, standing tall in front of the figures. Her hair whipped in the wind. Her eyes burned with fury. "You left me to die," she shouted into the roar. One of the figures stepped forward. His voice came through the helmet, cold and robotic. "We had no choice, Vera. You had every choice," she screamed. "And now you return not to save me, but to bury me again. You hold classified data. That data must not fall into human hands." Vera lifted her chin. "Then why did a human save me when my own kind threw me away?" The soldier raised his weapon. Carter didn't wait. From the cave, he fired a warning shot. The blast hit the sand near their feet, exploding in a burst of fire and dust. "I don't care who you are," Carter growled, stepping out beside Vera. "You hurt her. You deal with me." The soldiers paused, surprised. One human against 6. Laughable, but the fire in his eyes made them hesitate. Carter pulled Vera behind him and raised his gun again. "You're outnumbered," one soldier said, but not outmatched, Carter replied. A flash came from the left. A plasma bolt shot forward, missing Carter by inches. The fight had begun. Carter returned fire, diving behind a boulder. The air filled with smoke and light. Vera crawled to safety, shielding her head as sparks flew around her. 3 soldiers rushed the cave. Carter shot one in the leg, another in the shoulder. The third came close to close, but Vera, weak as she was, grabbed a jagged piece of metal and slammed it into the attacker's knee. He dropped, howling. Carter pulled her close. "You okay?" She nodded, breathing hard. "Keep going." The storm was now a battlefield. Lightning crackled in the sky. Dust and plasma mixed in the air like chaos. Carter and Vera fought side by side, one human with fierce aim, one alien with nothing left to lose. 2 more soldiers fell. The last one raised his hands and stepped back. "I don't want to die," he said. Vera pointed at him. "Then remember this moment. The moment a human stood between your orders and my life." The soldier nodded, dropped his weapon, and vanished into the storm. Silence fell again. The wind began to die down. The sand slowly settled. Carter lowered his weapon. He was shaking. Vera reached out and took his hand. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did," he replied. "You matter." Her lip trembled. "You keep saying that, and I want to believe it." "Then believe it," he said, holding her tighter. "Because it's the truth." They sat together in the cave, watching the fading storm. Burn marks scorched the rocks. Smoke drifted in lazy curls. The ground was stained with melted armor and broken weapons, but in the center of that chaos sat something stronger than any weapon: loyalty. A bond neither species could break. Later that night, as the desert cooled and the stars returned, Vera whispered something new. "I never knew what it felt like to be protected," she said. Carter looked at her gently. "Now you do." She turned toward him, eyes filled with tears, not of pain, but of something rare, something lost. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "Never," he answered. In the middle of a dead world, fire had raged. But from it, something had been born, something worth living for. The stars above were clear, no longer hidden by storm clouds or dust. Vera lay against a smooth rock, a soft thermal blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The fire Carter had made flickered beside her, casting warm shadows on the stone walls. Her bruises were healing. Her legs still hurt, but she could stand now, walk slowly, breathe without pain. But what surprised her the most was her heart. It didn't feel cold anymore. Not forgotten, not empty. For the first time in her life, she felt alive. Carter sat nearby, watching the flames dance. He was quiet, tired from the fight. His armor was scratched. A faint burn mark ran across his sleeve, but he didn't complain. He had saved her again and again. And not just her body, but her spirit too. Vera turned her head and whispered, "You're still here." Carter looked at her with a soft smile. "Told you I would. Be Most people leave. I'm not most people. She laughed gently. No, you're not. They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling, the desert cold pressing in around them. But inside that little cave, it felt warm, safe, home. I was ready to die, Vera said quietly. I had accepted it. My people abandoned me. I had nothing left. Carter didn't interrupt. It just listened. But then I felt your arms. Lifting me from the sand, she continued. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. Then I thought you'd leave once you knew who I was. I knew who you were the moment you opened your eyes, Carter said. You were someone who needed help. Vera looked at him. Why do you? Care so much, he shrugged. Because once, someone cared for me when they didn't have to. I promised myself I'd do the same, if I ever had the chance. She lowered her eyes. And I was that chance. You still are. The firelight danced in her eyes. She looked beautiful, dust and scars and all. Carter leaned closer. You don't have to go back to them. I know, she said. I'm not one of them anymore. I don't want to be. Then what do you want? Vera went quiet. Her heart beat fast. She looked into his eyes, brown, steady, full of kindness, and said the words she'd been afraid to say. I want to stay with you. Carter's breath caught. She reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. I don't know what this is, she whispered, but I know it's something real. Carter smiled slowly. It is. He reached up and brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear. Her skin shivered at his touch, not in fear, but in comfort. I'm not a soldier anymore, she said softly. You don't have to be. I'm not sure what I am. You're Vera, he said. The woman who survived. The woman who fought. The woman who chose to live. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, she let them fall. She leaned against him, resting. Her head on his shoulder, he wrapped his arm around her gently. The fire faded to glowing embers. The stars above blinked quietly, as if watching their story unfold. She had been thrown away, forgotten by her own kind. Left to die with no name, no worth, and yet, one human changed all of that, not with weapons or power, but with simple acts of care, of presence, of love. Morning came with soft pink light over the canyon walls. Carter stood at the edge, watching the sun rise. Vera walked up beside him. No limp, no pain. Just strength. She took a deep breath and said, So, what now? He looked at her and grinned. Well, I hear there's a place on the other side of this desert, quiet, safe, full of stars and stories. Is it real? Let's go find out. She nodded. Together, always. They walked away from the cave, leaving behind the battlefield, the storm, the broken past. Vera didn't look back, because everything that mattered was now walking beside her.